To Dr. Hutchinson. So, welcome to our DU Career Industry Day, a conversation with Dr. Tomekia Luckett, hosted by Camille, Wooten. And so, if you allow me just a second, I'll introduce our guest. As one of the world's rising empowerment speakers, Dr. Tomekia Luckett is a dynamic personality and highly sought after resource in professional, educational, and faith-based circles. Dr. Luckett has helped others to find hope and strength in Jesus Christ. She is a nurse, nurse educator, author, mother of triplet sons. Yes, I said triplet sons. Dr. Luckett has perfected the art of achievement both personally and professionally. She inspires and empowers others to go for their dreams through tenacity, excellence, and an unrelenting commitment to success. She has written several books, including devotionals for nurses and nursing students. Her heartfelt, passionate, and invigorating approach to life empowers patients to step beyond their limitations and become active participants in their health. Dr. Luckett is passionate about wellness and loves educating patients and communities on disease prevention. I have had the opportunity to witness personally the greatness that she is. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my friend, this amazing, dynamic Dr. Tomekia Luckett.
Another round of applause for Dr. Luckett. I just want to say thank you for everyone that came out today. And Dr. Luckett, we heard a lot about your background information, how you're not only a doctor, but a nurse, a mother. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background and where you're from and your information?
So I will say, whenever I speak and they give that introduction, I always get the same reaction, and it's hilarious for me. When they say triplets, everybody's like, "Whoo, is that real?" And I do want to tell you that is real. That is a part of my story. It's a part of my testimony. My sons are actually 25 years old. So if you do the math, I've been in RN going on my 23rd year. That means I went to RN school with triplets. And yes, that is true. They were 8 months old when I went to RN school. So I know what it's like to be in the chair as a student. I know what it's like to face obstacles. I come from a small town, Macomb, Mississippi. I was raised in a single parent household. My mom was the sole provider. And in Macomb, there wasn't a lot of opportunities that I saw for advancement, or at least that's what I heard. However, when you grow up in an impoverished neighborhood and you come from poverty yourself, a lot of times we don't believe that we can grow and we can have certain things. But I'm here to tell you all that with God, all things are possible. That's one of the parts of my story. And I'm not here to convert anybody or change your beliefs, but those are my personal beliefs. And that's a big part of who I am, because there is no way that I could have survived nursing school without, absolutely no way that I could have survived nursing school without the help of the Lord. So yes, Macomb, Mississippi, White Acres Housing Projects is where I was raised by a single mom.
That's interesting. You said you spoke a lot about how the diversity of going to nursing school by being a mom. How do you think that changed your output when you were in nursing school?
So, I was still relatively young when I went to nursing school. I was 21 years old. And honestly, nursing was not my first choice. I was telling Miss Tony what an opportunity this was for me, because Dillard was on my places of schools to attend when I was in high school. I wanted to be a pre-med major. That was my major, and I had heard about the phenomenal pre-med programs that they had back then at Dillard University. And I wanted an opportunity to go to an HBCU. That was another thing, a historical thing for me. And so back then, there weren't a lot of people who I was told as an African American, especially going through the nursing program that I attended, who would finish nursing school. A mini start, but being able to complete the program is what I was told would be difficult, number one, because it was a hard program. It was a rigorous course of study, but also with that, I had children. So when I had to go home, I didn't go home and just focus on books. I had small children that were 8 months old that I had to try to manage, basically. And so I had to work it out. And one of the things that I told myself was failure wasn't an option, because I was a single mom. Like, I didn't have any backup plan. It was either do this, finish this goal, or you don't have a way to feed your children. And so I'm thankful that God had his hand on me and he allowed me to finish the program, because it was tough. I won't tell anybody that nursing school is easy. And for some reason, we think that becoming a nurse, there may be some who believe that it's still less than being a physician. But I tell you, we learn a lot of things if you all don't already know that. Like, we have to learn a lot. We have to learn effective communication. We have to learn emotional intelligence. We also have to learn not only the art of nursing, but the science behind it. So I think it's imperative that we change initiatives and even what the face of nursing looks like. Like, I love to see the diversity even that's in this room, diverse backgrounds, diverse education, diverse goals and dreams and aspirations. So I think it's important that we have conversations centered around diversity in nursing. And for those of us who have achieved a doctoral level, to share with others, you can do this. Like, you can get a doctorate. I never thought that my goal of becoming a doctor would be possible, but here I sit today. It's not a medical doctor, but I still got a doctorate. I have a PhD, so you can do it.
You talk about getting your doctorate a lot, and that's actually like a really big goal of mine too. How did you decide that that was the right direction for you to go in?
I don't know that I decided. I decided, I suppose, but again, it was the Lord's guidance. So what happened was, I started working as a floor nurse initially. That's what I did, and I absolutely loved what I did. And then I transitioned into home health care, and that's what I was doing. I worked home health, and if you've ever had an opportunity to go to home health, one of the things that's exciting about home health is you get to teach. And so I learned, not only did I like to teach, I was good at it. I could teach the patients. And so I thought, maybe I just want to teach nursing. And so I started teaching in a practical nursing program, and I loved it so much. I figured, this is what I want to do, but I want to teach RNs. I want to teach all levels. And so as I grew, I decided, hey, I want to continue to grow. And so I ended up going to back to school to get my master's, and everybody told me to get my doctorate, and I definitely recommend it for everybody. Not that you will use it in practice, but it gives you opportunities to get open doors. Just with receiving a doctorate, I've had so many different doors open, so many opportunities, and there are not, first of all, individuals with a doctorate just nationwide is less than 1%. That's what the statistics were. But now, when you add in the component of being from a diverse background, a female and an African American with a doctorate degree, you have the ability to have so many opportunities open to you. So I highly recommend pursuing as much education as you can.
What do you think set you apart when you were applying for doctorate programs?
Well, again, that failure is not an option. I believe the word of the Lord when he says that with Christ I can do all things, Philippians 4 and 13. And I think that's just always been my mantra that I live by. Like, yes, it's hard, but somebody was able to do it. So if they were able to do it, sure I was. And then I had great teachers who were inspirational to me. Even Dr. Hutchison, the dean here, she didn't realize she taught me many years ago when I was pursuing either my bachelor's or my master's. I can't remember which one, but she was one of my instructors. And seeing her in that classroom as an African American instructor with a PhD, that let me know that this goal wasn't so crazy. There were others who were able to do it, achieve it, and that was something that I aspired to.
You talk a lot about, inspiring. What is something that you thought you would never get the opportunity to do that you've done?
One of the things that led to me going back to get a doctorate as well, I always thought that I would want to be a academic leader, like a nurse leader in a PhD role to be like a dean, and I've been afforded that opportunity to become a dean. I was named a dean at Louisiana Christian University a couple years ago, and I love it. But I'll tell you, as much as I love that, I love the patient aspect. And so I have returned back to school a couple years ago and just completed my postmaster's psych nurse practitioner. So that was definitely a goal that I didn't think I'd even want to do. And now that I've achieved that goal, I absolutely love it. So I would say becoming a dean and also a nurse practitioner, those are two goals that I never thought would be possible. There was always an invisible glass ceiling that made you believe that some goals were not obtainable, but with God, all things are possible.
What advice would you give to nursing students that are searching for guidance or don't exactly know what they want to go into or their end goal?
You know, I would say number one, and again, I keep referring to the Word of God because that's truly how I guide. You know, I don't pick a particular goal because it's popular. You know, right now it's popular to be a nurse practitioner. It's a lot of money out there. It's popular to be a travel nurse. But when you start looking at goals, at the end of the day, you can make the money. I mean, you can make good money. I've made good money. But at the end of the day, you've got to live with yourself. So the first thing I will say is number one, pray. The Word of God encourages us in all of our ways to acknowledge Him and let Him direct our path. I think that if you let God direct you, you'll be led to the correct path. Also, I would also advise don't be stagnant. You know, venture out. You know, back when I was a new nurse, they said you had to work med surge. They didn't really encourage us to venture out into the specialty areas like women's health, emergency room, intensive care. Now those opportunities are available. Figure out what opportunities you like. You know, as you go to clinical, what courses do you enjoy? What courses do you not enjoy? And don't be afraid if you find an area that you don't like, try something new. Nursing, that's the beautiful thing about nursing. Before a person leaves nursing, I always tell them try the areas. You know, you might like pediatrics, you might like obstetrics, and then realize just because you're a nurse, that doesn't mean life stops. I've done cosmetics, like with makeup. I have friends that are entrepreneurs in other arenas. One sells houses. I know some other nurses that do all types of phenomenal things. So don't think just because you obtain a degree in nursing that you're boxed in. There's so many affordable, rewarding opportunities for you, you know, as a nurse to showcase and highlight what you can do. So that would be my other piece of advice.
How do you think you balance it all? Being a nurse, a teacher, how do you think you balance it all?
Well, some days I think I balance it well, but some days I think I don't. The thing is still keeping that same mantra, you know, failure's not an option. I have to lace up my boots and do what I have to do. I like to have a calendar where I stay organized to know where I'm supposed to be and when I'm supposed to be there. And I try to remember that while my career is important to me, that's an important part of who I am. I'm also a mom. You know, my sons are 25, but they still need me. There's still questions they have. And so one of my things is keeping the first thing the first thing. You know, I know and I realize that for me, that means starting my day with two things. It's going to be prayer and coffee. If I don't have either one of those things, my day doesn't go right. I am not at my best when I don't have one of those two things. Figuring out your schedule, figuring out your life balance, and what works for you. That would be my best advice on that. Yeah.
Since becoming a nurse practitioner, what career opportunities have you taken on?
This is exciting because I will say I have been excited to be a nurse 22, 23 years, but the nurse practitioner, the psych mental health nurse practitioner, it's a very new role. We see a lot of mental health issues in African Americans for sure. There are a lot in my family. So it's been exciting because I have a lot of opportunities available. Honestly, because I do live in rural Mississippi, I thought that I would need to leave Mississippi and seek opportunities to learn because that's it. While I've been a nurse a long time, I'm a novice nurse practitioner and I'm aware of that. I'm aware of my limitations. And so I thought I would need to leave and find something, but I met a wonderful African American lady who lives not too far from my community. She happens to own 5 clinics, and so I'll be going to work with her and at the same time building my own private practice because that's something I aspire to do down the road. So again, y'all, it's so many opportunities out there. I'm telling you, take advantage of every opportunity to advance.
How did you decide that like nursing was the right pathway for you?
That really was not my decision. Again, I wanted to be a doctor, but after I got pregnant, because I was in college when I got pregnant, my mom made that decision because she had heart disease. And we knew pretty early on that I was going to be a single parent. We knew it was going to be obvious. And so she told me, she said, I'm not going to be here always. She said, and when I'm dead and gone, you're going to need some money. She was just that blunt with me. And she said, you're going to nursing school. So I wasn't really given a choice. I wanted to be a CNA. She said, nope. I wanted to be a LPN. She said, nope. And so she pushed me to go to RN school, and that was wonderful. Because not only did it become something I enjoyed, it became truly my purpose and my passion. Like, I really love being a nurse. And even in this advanced practice role, it's such an opportunity to give back. And some have asked, am I leaving academia? I don't think you can ever truly leave what you love, because I love teaching students. But I also think that there's an opportunity for me to give this gift that has been given to me to teach, to help our communities, like mental health, and the importance of making sure you're mentally healthy, making sure that stigma, there's a lot of stigma with mental illness, especially in African American communities. So I think it's important for us to have these types of conversations and spread awareness. So there are definitely a lot of new opportunities that are out there that I hope to continue to grow.
Why is mental health so important to you?
Mental health is so important to me, not only because I've had family members with their own issues, but I've had my own issues. And typically when you say I've had mental health issues, people automatically think to the major things like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. No, depression. You can be a person who has been in grief. There is trauma from things that happened during childhood, molestation. I grew up in the generation, what happens in this house stays in this house. And unfortunately, a lot of people become mentally unhealthy because of things like that, and they don't have anybody to talk to, especially in our community. You would be amazed because I do a lot of talks at churches and different events like that. How many times little ladies from the back, 70, 80 years old, when I finish speaking, because I'm transparent about so many things, will come up to me and say, something happened to me as a child and I never told anybody. And it's affecting me and I don't know what to do. So who is going to tell that person that you keep attracting the same type of person because of you? There is something unhealed in you that needs to be healed. And so that was my portion. As a nurse, I was definitely a public success, but I was a failure in my private life. Toxic relationships, toxic choices, bad decisions, because I was not whole on the inside. And so I had to be fixed. And yes, you can have prayer, you can have Jesus, I have both. But you may also need to see a therapist. You may also need to seek psychiatric attention if there are issues that you're still trauma. Many of us have been through trauma, and we don't even know how to discuss it or what to say to anybody. So that's why it's my passion.
So if someone is experiencing trauma or if they need a therapist, what would you suggest?
Well, I'm sure that this campus definitely has resources available, but just in the event that they don't, I could definitely put Miss Tony in touch with some professionals in this area who could help. But typically all of your college campuses have counselors and different ones who are available to you to talk to you and help you through, crisis and stuff. And I'll tell you, at first I was like, I need to see a therapist. Like, what are they gonna do for me? But it was so refreshing. Things that I didn't even know I needed to talk about, like my mom's death. I thought I had dealt with it, but my way of dealing with it was shutting down. Well, I didn't know that was unhealthy grief. So it was very helpful to me. So utilizing those resources that you have available would be important for sure.
I'm so sad to hear about your mom's passing. How do you think that that adversity kept you going?
Well, I will say her adversity kept me going because that was an aspiration. My mom was a tough cookie. She was a certified nurse assistant back in the day, CNA, And she wanted to be a nurse. She wanted to be an LPN, but my family was very poor. So they could not afford for her to go to school. She had to stop and work, which is one of the reasons she wanted me to be a nurse. She wanted me to be an RN. And so I just remember when I finished, she was like, okay, girl, that's good, but yeah, you need to go to practitioner school. So it was always go for the next thing. So she would be tickled pink to see all the things that the Lord has done since her death. And I probably was a little bit emotionally blunted during that time because when she died, September 17th, 2010, 6 weeks later, I went back to school and started working on my bachelor's. That was my way of grieving because I wanted to showcase her memory, and that was one of the last conversations that we had, that I would be going back to school to get a bachelor's, and even at the time I thought a nurse practitioner, but I ended up getting a master's in nursing education. Then all these years later, now seeing a nurse practitioner. So I think she has been one of my biggest inspirations because although she never got formal education, education was so important to her because she always taught me that that's the one thing that cannot be taken away from you. Once you earn that piece of paper, they can't take it away. So,
Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
I don't know, I'll be a millionaire. Hey, the word of God says we shall have what we decree. I will be a millionaire. I'll probably be in a private practice setup, still teaching some online or whatever the Lord leads me to do. Definitely still sharing with audiences not only the things that I have done, but the things that are possible for others. Because that's the whole thing. I want people to know that I'm not unique. There's nothing per se just super special about me. The same God who did it for me, he can lead you onto your own path of greatness. I want to be a millionaire in the next 10 years. I will, my kids, hopefully by that time I'll have some grandchildren, and you know, you never know what all may be. So, yeah.
Do you think you'll do some traveling?
Oh, I do a lot of traveling now. Oh yes, I'm traveling. I have cousins who I travel with. We usually go out of the country once or twice a year, so. And then for work and different things, speaking engagements and stuff, I'm on a plane usually at least once a month, sometimes more than that. So it's a busy life.
What do you think is the most rewarding about the life that you've built?
You know, it's the opportunity to do something I really love. You know, I love teaching. I absolutely love that. I love the advanced practice role, but this is what I really enjoy. If y'all can't tell, like, I am having a ball sitting here being able to share with you all parts of my journey and encourage you. I realize this is truly one of the things that God has gifted me to do and called me to do, is just share and empower others and encourage you along the way. So I think this is like my favorite part of the journey.
If you had to share one piece of advice for nursing students, what would it be?
Failure is not an option. Failure is not an option. Pick your boots up, figure out what you're gonna do. And I know the tests are hard. I mean, y'all, I just took the hardest test of my life. Listen, psych NP boards, nothing prepared me for how difficult that test would be. But guess what? I did it. 8-month-old triplets, sick. You know, I didn't mention that part. They were born at 23 weeks gestation. So, you know, just a little old, almost 6 months. You know, I didn't carry them a full 9 months. Didn't even carry them 7 months, but they all survived. They were medically fragile, is what they called that back then. They said that they were micro preemies. They didn't give us a lot of hope for their survival, but all 3 have survived. 2 have finished college, and 1 he's supposed to finish in May. All I can say is supposed to, because we don't know, you know, each time we think he's going to finish, it's a different class he's got to take. He's one of those people, when it's hard, he doesn't want to do it. Don't be that person, because failure is not an option. Don't start dropping classes just because they're hard. You can do this. Failure is not an option. Do you know how many people apply to nursing school and who don't even get in? Just the simple fact that you are sitting in this room means that you are academically capable. I can preach it, I can teach it, I can talk it all day. But until you can look in that mirror at yourself and say, you know what, I can do this. Sure enough, it's hard. But that lady that had on that blue top and those white pants, if she could do it with all of those kids, I think I can do this too. You have got to believe in yourself. And more than that, I know I keep referring back to him, but with God, all things are possible.
Where do you think you get that drive from to not give up?
If I give up, I have 3 people who are watching me. If I give up, what does that say to my sons? Like if I give up, what does that say to my mom who was a CNA? What does that say about my grandfather who left Mississippi and had to take us to Indiana, which is where I was born, and we relocated back here because the Klan tried to take their dairy farm. Like, what does that say to my generations behind me? You know, sometimes we speak so much about generational curses, and those are real, but I believe generational blessings are even more real. Like generations behind me, I broke the curse where my family was poor, where we didn't have nothing, where many of my family members were alcoholics and drug abused and addicted. Guess what? We broke the cycle. So I think that tenacity comes from seeing my first cousin who's had her own struggles, texting me and saying, I got selected for my BS in Bachelor's in Social Work program to be the student of the year. My cousin is 45 years old and had all kind of mental health problems when we were children. But guess what? Her watching me made her say, you know what? If my cousin could do this, I could too. Somebody's got to be the generational curse breaker. It could be you. It could be me. It could be any of us. Failure is not an option.
Failure is not an option.
Period.
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 Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Luckett, for being here today. We're going to open it up to Q&A. Did you guys have questions?
Can you please elaborate a little bit more on why it's so important as African Americans that we get away from that stigma and know that we should not be suffering alone?
You know, again, I say the thing that we grew up with, at least in my household, in my family. What happens in this house stays in this house. Somewhere about 7 or 8 years ago, when the Lord called me to do like more speaking publicly and things of that nature, and I felt a demand on me to share my journey. I make it no secret that I was molested by a family member during childhood. And I asked my family, including my children, you know, I had been in a domestic violence relationship as a nurse a couple years after nursing school, went to work as a nurse, black eyes, bruises, like face totally disfigured, but I'm healed. Anyway, I didn't know that that broken little girl had to be healed in order for the grown woman to show up. I didn't realize that, yes, I had education. Yes, I might even had a little bit of money, but there was a part of me that was still that abandoned 3-year-old whose father left her in Indiana. And so even though I had the public success, the private failure was keeping me dormant. It was keeping me locked in. It was keeping me chained in. And what I discovered was so many people have their own stories, you know, and if you don't deal with the trauma sooner or later, it's going to deal with you. So I think that's important. You know, I tell people all the time, you may not be called to share in the way that I'm called to share. This is what I'm called to do. You may not share your story publicly like I do. Some people will never share it, but get you somebody who you can talk to and allow God to heal you. Like, let him do surgery on you. Those wounds on the inside, they have a way of showing up. Like I have this thing, I got it from my mom, but it's true. Like, if everywhere you go, you can't get along with nobody. Like, you can't get along with the people at school. You can't get along with the people at work. You can't get along with the people at church. Everywhere you go, you can't get along with the people. The people are not the problem. The problem is you. Something is broken on the inside. And as African Americans, we have got to start talking about this stuff. Even the part of, yes, you can be faith-filled. You can be spirit-filled. I'm all that. But you can also have soul wounds. We are a tri-part being, spirit, body, and soul. When we give our life to God, it's our spirit that gets fixed. But our soul, our emotions, our mind, and will, we can still have issues. And so we gotta talk to somebody about, yeah, I'm saved and I'm jumping and shouting on Sunday, but I'm going home on Sunday night and I'm raising all kind of Hades with my family because it's something broken on the inside. So we gotta be transparent with our stories. We definitely do.
Thank you.
Yes.
You can go ahead.
What would you say was like your hardest semester in regards to like your family life and then in regards to like academics and how did you get over that?
That's funny you asked me that, and I'll tell you, I'm laughing because it was actually the last semester of nursing school, fourth semester. Fourth semester, and it was psych mental health. How in the world do you become a psych mental health nurse practitioner and you hated psych? I did not want to do psych. That was I couldn't get it, didn't understand it. I didn't want to work with the psych stuff. It was fourth semester. As I look back on that now, I think not only, because we had med surg and psych like in the same semester, that last semester. They were getting us ready for boards is what I realize now. But I think that fourth semester was the toughest because I was just over it. I was ready to be finished. I was ready to be done. But you know what? That same fire you had in fundamentals or your other classes to press in, this is why it's important. You got to press in this last semester even harder than the first. The reason why is because, number one, you too close to the goal now. Like, I got a student I'm going to sit down with Thursday. Like, this is March. You supposed to walk in May. I'm not sure what's going on now, but we're going to figure it out together. You too close to the end of this goal to give up now. Like, failure is not an option. Remember that first semester when you didn't know how you were going to make it? Remember second semester when all kind of stuff started breaking out? You had family acting crazy and your change got strange and your money got funny and you made it through that? Remember third semester when you wanted to quit again? You are here at the end. Like, you got to press in. Failure is not an option. And y'all remember this, like, you are no longer, when you get to that final semester, if I could go back and talk to myself, I would have made myself realize, like, you're not the student nurse anymore, although you're the student. You got to think like a nurse at this point. Because, see, in a few weeks, you're going to be graduating. And you're not going to have a teacher with you at that point to hold your hand. When it comes to that patient going bad, you got to know what to do. When you face the NCLEX, and yes, you're going to face it soon, you have got to know that material because the test is hard. I don't care how well you do academically. I'm telling you, the NCLEX is hard, but you can do it. So I would say that would have been definitely my hardest semester, yes. And failure is not an option.
How do you think you focused in that last semester?
I would say probably my kids. Like, we literally had no other backup plan. You know, I had heard stories before I had the triplets. Oh, when you have triplets, the government gives you money. No, they don't. I'm here to tell you, the government don't give you no money. There's no pie in the sky. I met Jehovah Jireh in that process, for real, for real. So I knew that if I didn't finish nursing school, like, what else could we do? Like, what else did we have? For me, it was financial, but it also was a career. Like, being a nurse is not a job. This is a career. And for me, I wanted a career. I wanted my boys to have something that they could be proud of. And I missed a lot when they were growing up. Like, I missed them learning to walk because we were at the state hospital in Mississippi for clinical my last semester of nursing school. And I didn't see them learn to walk. My mom had them because I had to be away. And when I got back, she had them walking, talking, eating. I mean, they were doing everything. I missed that. But guess what? My boys don't even remember that. All they know is my mom has been a nurse our whole life, pretty much. That's all they remember. And that somehow she's been able to take care of all three of us. So for those who may be parents, you know, in this room, I want you to be encouraged. The time sacrifice, as they get older, they won't remember that. But they will remember that, you know, my mom worked hard. She provided for me. And every now and then, you know, they're boys. They're not emotional people. But every once in a while, they'll throw in a, you know what, I'm proud of you. You did a good job today. So, yeah.
Does anyone else have questions?
Yes.
You can go.
What opportunities did you take while in nursing school? Because I hear you talk a lot about, like, you stay focused, like failure was an option. Did you do any, like, nurse tech jobs, any shadowing internship programs?
Now, I would have loved to have those opportunities, but I'll be honest, because my children were at home and they were sick, I couldn't do anything else. My mom would only keep them while I was at school, pretty much. If it was school, clinical, yes, she would keep them. But for me to do anything else at the time, I wasn't able to do that. But I think those externship opportunities are wonderful because not only do you get familiar with the patients and the different diagnoses, you get familiar with learning how to manage things as a nurse. I think also one of the things, and this is me, I was talking to a student not long ago. Study groups didn't work for me. I have my own unique way of studying. And, I did pretty good in school, and some people would want to study with me, and I would always tell them, like, I'm not saying I don't want to study with you to hurt your feelings, but I literally have my own little way of studying. Like, I would make rhymes, I would draw pictures, because I am a visual learner, so I had to use different strategies for me to learn. So I would always say, figure out your learning style and make that work. If you're a visual learner, don't try to make yourself auditory. You know what I'm saying? Figure out your learning style and use that to your advantage. If you are not if you're a kinesthetic learner, figure out how to put your hands on something. If that's drawing out a chart, drawing out a table, whatever you have to do so you can get the concepts. Because in nursing, of course, I know y'all know this, it's not just about memorization. It's about being able to apply that information. You got to have the ability to apply it. So definitely any opportunities you can find like that, take advantage of them. They will help you more than you know. Yes.
Well, I guess
I have a question.
Yes.
Where did you go get your post doctorate degree for the psychiatry?
The University of Southern Mississippi.
USM.
Yes, USM.
Liked it.
Yeah, I got my PhD there and my PhD and my postmaster's both come from USM, University of Southern Mississippi. I have never attended an HBCU, but I'm working on something. I'm not going out to the world just yet what it is, but I'm working on something so I can get to attend a HBCU. I just want that opportunity to be able to say that. We have some amazing ones in Mississippi. Y'all have amazing ones here in Louisiana as well. So, yeah, USM.
So what moment did you realize that you want to specialize in psych?
I think when the Lord helped me to make the connection between the trauma and the repetitiveness in my life, the cycles. When I realized that there was that, and then I had worked some as a psych nurse, that was also my specialty through the years, and I realized that I had the ability to help others, that, it would be something that was so rewarding. Sometimes we see the homeless person under the bridge and we think that they may be lazy or whatever else we think about them, but we don't think about this may be a person just like us who actually had something trauma that happened to them that they were never able to get over, and so they started self-medicating with some kind of substance, and that led to them having all types of issues. And so when I was able to make that connection, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt I needed to help. I needed to give back. Yes.
Dr. Luckett, I just want to thank you for sharing your story, your journey, as well as focusing on the commonality that students encounter in all nursing programs and that they're not alone in their struggles to move forward and achieve their goals. I really enjoyed your conversation as well as Ms. Wooten, who were asking the questions. So thank you so very much.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Hutchinson, I do want to say to you, you had stepped out when I was sharing with them that during one of my pursuits of one of the degrees, either the bachelor's or the master's, I can't remember one, but you were one of my teachers. And I told, it was the master's. Now you remember, okay.
Yeah.
I hope I was a good student. I was a good student. I didn't show out.
You were a good student.
I didn't show out.
Yeah.
But I was telling them that to see you, an African American with a PhD, made me believe it was possible. So I want to thank you because you and I both know there are not a lot of people who look like us, not with a PhD. Now, DNP, you may see a little more mixture, you may see with a D in it, but a PhD in nursing is not a lot of people who look like us. So I thank you for being an inspiration to me as well. Yes, ma'am.
Talk a little bit about why it's so important to be committed when you get into nursing.
Ooh, I don't know how you could do it without being committed. Because it is tough. I mean, nursing school, it is tough, but it should be. You know, I had the opportunity to share at a white coat ceremony yesterday at William Carey, and I shared with them some of my favorite nursing heroes, Florence Nightingale, Mary Mahoney, and then Miss Glenda Brinkley. Nobody knows Miss Glenda Brinkley, but she's my hero. Miss Glenda is my hero because she was the nurse who was with my mom as she made her transition to heaven. For each patient that you take care of in that bed, that's somebody's mama, or somebody's daddy, somebody's son, somebody's brother, somebody's uncle. That is somebody's family member. Never ever forget that's somebody's something. And the same compassion you would want shown to your family member, you should show to others. So commitment, oh, that's an understatement. You have to serve, at least in my opinion, your patients like you want your family member served. So, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you guys for coming out, and thank you, Dr. Luckett, once again. And thank you guys.